Bowled in! What a ripper! Oh, what a...
Out. Inside edge, I think. And then destroys the stumps.
Now, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Destroy the Stumps podcast. This is over 100. I haven't ever scored 100 in my life. But anyways, thank you guys for your time. Hope you're all safe wherever you are, wherever you're in the world. Hope everything's going well for you. Just a couple of weeks now, just 2 weeks now from the T20 World Cup starting. So we've got a gentleman from Sri Lanka by the name of Pawan who lives in the capital city of Colombo. Avid cricket fan, loves his cricket. He knows a lot about Sri Lankan cricket, and also he has his own YouTube channel called the Sports Breakdown. Do give it a like and subscribe to their channel, and press the bell icon. They do produce some good content, and they're always up for a discussion. Him and his the other people at Sports Breakdown, give them a follow on Instagram as well. They're always up for a chat. And I want to say thank you very much, Pawan, for your time today. Thanks for joining us over here at
Yeah,
the
it's a
Stumps.
pleasure.
Pawan,
Great.
yeah. So Pawan, thank you very much for joining us. Just once again, I've said it about 2 times now. So Pawan, just with the Sri Lankan team, things have changed a lot. For me, like there was a period where they were struggling a bit after Mahela and Kumar Sangakkara retired, then Dilshan retired. Few of the guys retired at once, and then there were concerns whether Sri Lanka would recover as a cricket team. Then, of course, the well-politicized political issues. But now, it looks like the cricket team's on the right track. There's some good youngsters coming through, and especially in the T20s. Dasun Shanaka is a very impressive captain. He reminds me a bit of Arjun Ranatunga. What do you think's changed in this Sri Lankan team over the last a year and a half?
Yeah, I think the great thing about this Sri Lankan team right now is that they're not making much changes. Like when we saw back in 2016, 2017, the Sri Lankan selectors, they always changed the team. Like if I'm not mistaken, in 2017, there were like 52 changes in the team, and they didn't stick to the same playing 11. And what we've seen in the last 2 years that these players playing together, especially Dasun Shanaka and the team, they're getting more matches to play, and they're getting more opportunities. They're getting more match practices, going overseas tours and performing well over there, gaining the confidence, and that has tremendously helped the team. And I think the team is getting more balanced. Obviously, these, especially Hasaranga, Bhanuka Rajapaksha and Mahish Tikshana, all these players going to IPL also and getting contracts and playing over there in India, and then sharing the experiences to the other players, other team players in the Sri Lankan cricket team. So I think the team has drastically improved. I think there is a massive change over the past year, I would say, and especially the coaching staff was, I think, need to give credit to Chris Silverwood and also Navid Nawaz, the batting coach of Sri Lanka. I think they've done a tremendous job, and to keep this unit as a whole, I think Sri Lanka have been doing well. I think as last year, as Simon Dul said, I think just give them 1 year, they said last year, to see how the Sri Lankan team will do in 1 year's time. And obviously, we've seen now Sri Lanka winning the Asia Cup. So hopefully they can produce the same sort of results in the 2020 World Cup as well coming up. But I think there is a big improvement in the Sri Lankan team over the past 2 years. As what we've seen in 2019 to 2022, I think there's a huge change in the Sri Lankan team.
Absolutely. And also you mentioned about like just with the changes before the last 2 years. I remember Sri Lanka kept having new captains as well. I was wondering why the selectors are doing. What are their selectors thinking? Like it definitely leads to a bit of instability in the team. And
yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, I think I don't know what happened, because I think after Sangakkara, Mahela, Dilshan left, I think that filled a huge void in the team. And I think especially with new players coming up, they wanted to give them new opportunities. They didn't know which player actually can hold the captaincy, because if I'm not mistaken, Matthews was the captain of Sri Lanka back then in 2017-18. They kept on losing. I think in 2017, they lost in the Zimbabwe tour, and then Matthews had to resign. And then 2018, 2018, they had a woeful Asia Cup performance as well, and so many problems happened, and they kept on changing captains because players had injuries. They were not performing. I mean, their form wasn't good, so there was so much problems going on, and they couldn't come up with a proper playing 11. They kept on changing the team. So I think that's what happens when legends like Sangha, Mahela, Dilshan, Malinga, Herath, all these players retire all of a sudden, and then Sri Lanka team, it takes some time for this Sri Lankan team to actually go through a transition. And I think it took a bit too long, I would say, but at least now, at least I think we are back on the right track, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're definitely right about losing all those players all at once. Plenty of experience, and then when you rely on such experienced players, any team in the world would have a bit of an issue after all players of that caliber retire all at once. But yeah, like you said, there's some good signs that Sri Lanka's on the right track now, and people are taking notice around the world of this Sri Lankan team, this young Sri Lankan team. Just about the captain as well, Dasun Shanaka, a bit of a character. He's pretty lively. I saw him do the little Nagin dance celebration when they beat Bangladesh. Yeah. Funny guy.
Yeah, I think that was Chamika. I think that was Chamika, not Dasun Shanaka. But yeah, I think
Okay.
I think the conference, I think Dasun Shanaka said about obviously, I think the Bangladesh head coach, if I'm not mistaken, or the director of cricket saying that Sri Lanka doesn't have world-class players. And then Dasun Shanaka responded before the match in the press conference that Bangladesh don't have world-class players, and there was a rift going on. But
yeah,
luckily we won that match. Luckily, we won that match in the Asia Cup, I would say, thanks to Asita Fernando's 2 fours, and especially Sri Lanka putting a good score. Chasing down a good score. So yeah, there were sort of things going on, but I think Dasun Shanaka is a really good character. I would say he takes responsibility for the team, I would say, and I think this year has been tremendous for Dasun Shanaka. If I'm not mistaken, he scored around 400 runs. When I go through his stats in 2020 cricket this year, I think he has 400 plus runs. His average is 45. His strike rate is around 145, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been tremendous. And I think this year has seen a new transformation of Dasun Shanaka, I would say, compared to the previous years. Because when you see his overall stats in 2020, you see that his average is around 23, 24. His strike rate is around 120, 130. But this year, I don't know, for some reason, I think it's because I think they're playing as a unit, I would say, and Dasun Shanaka feels more responsible as a captain right now. He's got he's captain now for the past 2 years, I would say. So that has helped him actually be more aware of the game situation that's happening during matches, and especially Sri Lanka cricket actually sticking with him, playing at number 6, saying that this is the spot for you, giving trust on Dasun Shanaka, and that has really helped him, and that has elevated his game, and I think that has gained his confidence. Especially, I would say that Australia knock, if I'm not mistaken, the third 2020 scored 75, I think, 58 in that knock in the last 2020, and Sri Lanka won that match. So I think since that, I think Dasun Shanaka has been tremendous. I think even in February in that India series also he did well. So I think throughout this year, I think Dasun Shanaka has been another revelation, I would say. I think he has done tremendously well this year, and hope he can continue this in the 2020 World Cup, because it's the Australian conditions will be different, and it will be a test for Dasun Shanaka. So hopefully he can carry that form that he's been bringing out for the past 4 or 5 months to Australia. And I think his captaincy also has improved a lot. I think especially his tactics, 100%. He's listening to what Chris Silverwood and what Naveed Namas and the rest of the coaching staff are saying. He's getting on together with the team. So those are good signs of a captain, and I think he's a good. I hope he can stay as a captain for much long as he can.
Absolutely. He reminds me a bit of Ranatunga, the way he he's not scared of a confrontation either. He doesn't back down. He's good at sledging as well, from what I've seen. Yeah. Funny guy as well, but really good leader, and the young guys seem to look up to him as well. That's the main thing. You need a leader like that, and those type of leaders seem to work for Sri Lanka, like Ranatunga, of course, in the past, and then you had Mahela, who's really good as a captain. But yeah, also Chamika Konaratne, that was the guy who did the snake dance. Yeah, he's a bit of a character, but he's a guy who seems to perform under pressure as well. Him and Dasun Shanaka, they do the small things very well. Like maybe people say like the overall stats aren't great, but They perform when the team needs it the most. They'll get like the vital breakthrough with the ball, or they'll play a vital cameo. Darshan Shanaka played really well against India in the Asia Cup. And that was a big game, and that helped Sri Lanka qualify for the final. And you look at Sri Lanka, like you mentioned, Sri Lanka's performance in the last Asia Cup, but that was the 50/1. They were knocked out. They lost both games to Afghanistan and Bangladesh. They got hammered. There were a lot of problems. This Asia Cup, they lost to Afghanistan first game. Then when they beat Bangladesh, everything turned around from there. And then, yeah, they just never looked back from there. And one guy who was a vital part of that run, that successful run to the final, the turnaround from that first game of this Asia Cup was Wanindu Hasaranga, who's become a T20 star. He's got a lot of contracts around the world. He plays his T20 cricket around the world. How vital is he to this team? His presence in this Sri Lankan team, and he's only 25 years of age. Still got a long way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hasaranga has really elevated his game. I think from 2017, if I'm not mistaken, he took a hat-trick in his ODI debut against Zimbabwe. And from that on, I think 2019, I think the Pakistan tour, when there were no players to go to Pakistan, and then Hasaranga went to that tour to Pakistan, and then Sri Lanka whitewashed Pakistan, and Hasaranga was the main player over there against Pakistan. And I don't know, I think his googly is really hard to spot. I think it's very difficult for batsmen to read his googly, and I think a lot of batsmen do complain about that, because his googly is so effective that especially in spin-friendly conditions, that batsmen tend to struggle against Hasaranga. And I think even though he uses his stock delivery more, I think his googly has been the most vital. And I think he's improved in all three formats. I mean, all three aspects of his game, especially his batting has improved recently. I think in the final of the Asia Cup, those 36 runs were very critical, even though people give credit to Bhanuka Rajapaksa to actually who made Sri Lanka to go to 170. I think Hasaranga was the player who actually gave confidence to Bhanuka Rajapaksa to actually go and accelerate over there when Sri Lanka were 58 for 5. So I think Hasaranga has improved in all three aspects of the game, not just bowling. I would say even his fielding has been superb, I would say, over the past 2 years. But his bowling is obviously very little. I think he's one of the best spinners going on right now. I think with Rashid Khan, I would say, because we saw what he did with RCB also in the IPL this year. He was the second highest wicket taker and the highest wicket take amongst overseas players, getting 26 wickets. So that's a huge deal, I would say, for Sri Lanka cricket, because I didn't expect Hasaranga to perform this well. I mean, even in the IPL, especially in his first full season, I mean, back in 2020, I think he played the latter half of the IPL, but he only got 2 matches and he struggled in both matches. But when it came to IPL 2021, when he was given a longer run, he did really well. So I think Hasaranga is a future, I mean, a star already for Sri Lanka. Hope he continues this form, because I think already batsmen are trying to target on Hasaranga. They're making plans towards Hasaranga. So for Hasaranga to continue this, I think he should obviously improve, put more variations to his game, try to obviously deceive the batsman more. So I think Hasaranga, if he can elevate the game a bit more, I think he could be unstoppable, just like what Rashid Khan does for Afghanistan.
Absolutely, yeah. He's just been amazing this year, especially, and just such a vital player to this Sri Lankan team. So I'm just going to read out the squad altogether. So it's Darshan Shanaka, the captain. Then you got Charitas Lanka, impressive batsman. He did well, I think he did well in the Australian ODIs as well against Australia. Dushmanta Chamira, very quick, skiddy type of bowler, can surprise you. That bounce is very effective. If he's playing, he'll be a huge part of that Sri Lankan team, especially on those Australian pitches. Dhananjaya De Silva, a bit of an underappreciated player. He always does the job, always does something in the game. Then there's Danushka Gunatilaka, who can be aggressive when you need him to. Hasaranga, we've talked about him. Waninda Hasaranga, Chamika Karunaratne. Lahiru Kumara is pretty quick as well, just like Dushmanta Chamira, surprisingly very quick. Pramod Madhushan, he played well in the Asia Cup against India and also Pakistan.
In the final, I think he got 4 wickets.
Yeah, he's very impressive. And only a couple of games and he's already impressed. Then you got Dilshan Madhushanka as well. Kusal Mendes seems to have found a bit of form of late. Had a good start to the Asia Cup, not a great end, but it seems like he's coming back to where reaching his potential now. Patum Nisanka, very impressive young batsman, excellent stroke player, vital part of this Sri Lankan team. Bhanuka Rajapaksa, what he did in that final was excellent. And then Mahesh Dikshana, a bit of a mystery spinner for Sri Lanka. They've got a few mystery spinners there, and then Jeffrey Van der Say as well. So that's their squad. And also you got the standby players, Ashen Bandara, Dinesh Chandimal. We know what Dinesh Chandimal can do on his day. Binura Fernando, there's Nowanindu Fernando and Praveen Jayawikrama as well.
Yeah.
So those are the standby players, and then the main squad. What do you think of your main squad? And would you have made any changes to that main squad?
Yeah, I think I would have included Vinura Fernando instead of Lahiru Kumara, because I think Lahiru Kumara is coming after injury. I know he might bowl at 145 to 150 kilometers per hour, but I just feel that his death bowling needs to improve a bit more, I would say, and especially coming after injury. I think it might not be easy for Lahiru Kumara to adapt all of a sudden to these conditions in Australia. Maybe his pace might work, but we do have Dusmant Chamira also. But I just feel if Vinura Fernando is in that squad, because we have Dilshan Madhushanka as well, who's a left-arm pacer as well, who could give those varieties in case something happens, in case they want to test out, want to rest Dilshan Madhushanka for one match, then you can have a Vinura Fernando, who's a likable left-arm seamer, so who could swing the ball, bowl those off-swingers in the power play itself and try to get wickets. I think Vinura Fernando could have been a huge, he could have made a huge impact in those Australian pitches. So I would just make that one change, I would feel, for this Sri Lankan squad, but otherwise I'm satisfied with the whole squad. I think they've found out the exact squad that they needed to go the 2020 World Cup, because anyways, I think Asitha Fernando, I know he might have made an impact with the bat, but his bowling wasn't that great. And Matisha Patirana, I think, is still a bit too young. I know he's 19. He did really well in the IPL for those 2 matches that he got, but I still think that he has his time to come. Same with Dunit Belalage. I think he has his time to come. So those 2 are still on the standbys, I would say. They'll come back in a year or 2. But otherwise, I think overall, I think the squad looks really good this time around.
Yep. Oh, look, absolutely. I'm impressed with this squad as well. To be honest, Lahiru Kumara, like you've said, after injury, I mean, like coming back from an injury, it might take a while for him to just get in the rhythm. But let's see. But I think this squad, they have the potential for sure to maybe surprise a few teams, and they could potentially reach the semi-finals, maybe even the final. Because they seem to really gel under pressure as well when their back's against the wall. If they have a bad result, okay, that happens, and then they just somehow find a way to come back. And with also with the last World Cup as well, they finished on top in the first round of that group. Expectedly, they was expected to do that, but they did well in the, even despite against, like, nobody really expected them to do well in the Super 12s. They weren't too far off beating England, who were one of the favourites. They were unlucky against South Africa. It was a close game. It was a very close game.
Close. Yeah.
So if those 2 games kind of went their way, they might have reached the semi-final in the last World Cup against all expectations. So you never know. This World Cup, I reckon, they're a team to watch out for. People are noticing this Sri Lankan team, but I think that they could surprise a few people here. And also, who's your player to watch out for this World Cup? Like, we know for Sri Lanka, I know that Hasaranga's he's a gun player. You got all these guys. Who's the guy that the cricketing world should watch out for from Sri Lanka?
I think I'll say 2, because I think in the batting aspect, I would want to say 1, and in the bowling aspect, I think for batting, I think it's going to be Bhanuka Rajapaksa, because the way that Bhanuka has been performing this year has just been brilliant, and the way that he's been handling in those middle overs, especially, I think strike rate over 150, and I think over 17 to 20, I think his strike rate is around 170 plus, and the way that he performed for Punjab Kings this year in the IPL also was just tremendous. The way that he played at number 3, adapted to the situations, it was not his normal batting position, but he somehow contributed a lot to Punjab Kings, which is why they trusted in Bhanuka Rajapaksa and gave him a run. So the way that he's brought that game of element to Sri Lanka also, batting at number 5, has just been brilliant. And I think Bhanuka Rajapaksa is seriously a guy to watch out for. And I think especially for bowlers, because if he gets to his mode, right, if he gets to his zone, I think it's really difficult to get him out, especially because the way that he hits those sixers and especially those boundary rate of Bhanuka Rajapaksa is very high. So I think I think Bhanuka, when it comes to batting, I think Bhanuka is the one to watch out for. When it comes to bowling, I think it's going to be Dilshan Madhushanka, especially in those swinging conditions in Australia, especially. I know in the Asia Cup final, he got under pressure and he conceded 9 runs, but the way that he came back from the first over, especially after conceding 9 runs of your first delivery, bowling those wides, and the way that he came back, no one noticed that. The way that he came back from under pressure, especially in that Asia Cup final, was just brilliant. So, and the way that he got Kohli out also in the Asia Cup, and several batsmen, the way that he swung the ball, bowled those in-swingers and out-swingers, and troubled a lot of batsmen, including Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, Virat Kohli, even Rohit Sharma. I think Dilshan Madhushanka is a bowler to watch out for. Even though he's young, he's inexperienced, but I still think he could be a threat to especially teams like New Zealand, England, who haven't faced Dilshan Madhushanka before. It could perhaps bring them a bit of a surprise this time around.
Yeah, 100%. That left arm bowling, just a bit of swing as well. And also, Sri Lanka do play their first 3 games, the first round, all of their games. I think it's in Melbourne. It's a stadium in Geelong. Sorry, not Melbourne.
Yeah.
Don't ever call Geelong Melbourne to a Victorian, man.
Yeah.
But that's Geelong. That's where the Melbourne Renegades play their cricket, Gardenia Park. So also, there's a bit of a wet weather at the moment in Australia, in the eastern part of Australia. So who knows how the conditions will be in 2 weeks' time.
But I think there's good memories for Sri Lanka back in 2017. I think Asila Gunaratne, if I'm not mistaken, he scored a match-winning knockover. Then Sri Lanka did defeat Australia back 5 years back in that ground itself. So it's sort of a special ground to us because we won that 2020 series against Australia when a lot of problems were happening during that year. We somehow managed to beat Australia in 2020 series. So hope that ground gives us good memories. And I think all 3 matches over there in Geelong, I think that will be a good benefit for Sri Lanka, especially with the way that we've been performing in this year. And especially we have played against Australia, also 5 2020s against Australia this year. I think that also will help all these players. And most of them were playing in that series against Australia, in Australia. So yeah, I think that will help the Sri Lankan team to do well in the qualifiers this time. It's sort of a practice for us. I know there could be a surprise that could happen, but still, I think Sri Lanka are comfortable, obviously, to do well in the qualifiers for sure.
Yeah, I think the West Indies might have a few issues. Their groups a bit tougher than Sri Lankans, but you never know of cricket. Never underestimate your opponents, I guess.
Yes.
But I do expect Sri Lanka to go through from Group A. And also good support in Melbourne as well. And over here, generally, especially Melbourne, there's a good Sri Lankan community that they go to the Sri Lankan games if they're in Melbourne. Also, speaking of Melbourne, Sri Lanka, the MCG, I remember that classic game, Angela Matthews, Lustit Malinga partnership.
2010.
Oh, man, that's one of the all-time great matches for sure, ODI games. But yeah, Dilshan Madhushanka, and you're talking about him, just talking about him briefly before we do wrap it up. He did trouble Kohli. He got rid of, he troubled some top batsmen in Asia, like Mohammad Rizwan's the #1 batsman in T20s at the moment. And Babar Azam, everyone knows how good he is. Kohli, everyone knows how good he is. If you can trouble batsmen of that caliber, I mean, you definitely got to watch out for. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So Dilshan Madhushanka and Bhanuka Rajapaksa, those are the 2 people we'll have to watch out for. Definitely. But yeah, look, thank you very much, Pawan, for your time. I do want to just wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time today, Pawan. I hope you're well in Sri Lanka. Hope your people are doing fine. And also, thank you guys for your time today. Stay safe wherever you are in the world. Until next time, it's bye for now. And do give Pawan and the guys at Sports Breakdown a follow on YouTube.
Please do subscribe the Sports Breakdown on YouTube as well and on Instagram as well. Please do follow us on that page as well. We will be posting regularly. Sorry for not updating for the past 2 months, but hopefully we can do regular content on both YouTube and Instagram. And do also check out Destroy our podcast. And thank you so much, Neil, for the invitation also today for me to join for this podcast. I'm happy to join anytime. And I do like to talk about Sri Lanka cricket, which is why I came today to discuss about this. So please do check out their podcast as well. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Not a problem. Anyways, guys, stay safe wherever you are. Until next time, it's bye for now, and we are out.
Pawan! What a ripper!